Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Great Days Outdoors Magazine, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. We have a great show lined up for you guys this week, but first, let's hear who's making the show possible. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Great Days Outdoors Magazine. Are you looking for that one-of-a-kind gift for Father's Day? If so, head on over to greatdaysoutdoors.com and check out the best gifts for outdoorsmen 2021. We've curated a bunch of unique gift ideas to help you find an awesome gift for the outdoorsman on your list. Just head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/best gifts for outdoorsmen to check it out. And also brought to you by Photonis Defense. Photonis Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles built around the Photonis 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes and their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. The ultralight, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest image, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PD Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonis Defense, masters of darkness. All right, folks, welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. I am your host, Butch Theory, and we're just going to jump right into the show this week. We have a great segment from Jennifer Parnell over at the Flora-Bama Fishing Rodeo 2021 coming up very soon. You guys make sure and get your tickets and check that out. It's going to be a fun event. Let's hear from Jennifer, then we'll get right into the report. All right, let's head on down to an awesome event coming up. They pawned the funnest fishing tournament on the Gulf Coast. Let's go down and see what Jennifer Parnell, the marketing and PR director for the Flora-Bama, is doing. How are we doing today, Jennifer? Welcome back.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back. We're excited.
Good, man. We are joined with Joe Baya over at the Northwest Florida Fishing Report. What you say, Cap?
Hey, man, I'm always excited to hear about this rodeo coming up. It's an exciting time of year because it really kind of kicks everything off for the year, but it's also exciting because you guys didn't get to have this last year, Jennifer, so I know y'all are ready to get back out there and get back to normal.
Yeah, we're so excited. We were very close to having it last year, but then, it was a crazy year, so things came up and we weren't able to. So, yeah, we're ready.
Amen to the crazy year.
Yeah, no doubt. For folks that are not aware of the format of the Flora-Bama Fishing Rodeo, take us through the format, some of the categories. First off, when's it going to be? Obviously we need to know the dates and just kind of what folks can expect from the tournament this year.
Yeah, so the fishing tournament is going to be June 11th and 12th. So those are the days you can fish. And then the awards are on the 13th. And the thing that's so fun about it is it's low entry fee. It's only $50 for adults, only $25 for kids. And there's all these categories. So you can fish in over 30 categories. So, you can do anything from a blue crab all the way up to a swordfish. There's just anything that you can think of. And you can also fish from the beach. You could fish from a dock or from a boat or from a kayak. So you have all these different options and ways to enter to get these really, really great prizes. We love watching the little kids come in. It's so cute seeing them compete for prizes when they're weighing like a little pinfish, and then they walk away with these awesome fishing poles and rods and reels and kayaks. So outside of that, there are some competitive divisions if anybody wants to compete for a little cash money. So we have an Offshore Slam Championship. We have the Red Snapper Jackpot. So snapper season will be in and people always get excited about that. That's one of the ones most people enter. We have a speckled trout with 4 different levels for that. And we also do a King Mackerel Championship, and it is SKA sanctioned this year. And then we also do some spearfishing and a separate lionfish category. So there's all kinds of stuff.
Man, there's no fish that is going to be safe that weekend.
No fish, no crab, anything.
No crab, nothing. And that's so cool. The thing I think I like the most about the rodeo format is it gets the whole family involved. And, as a young father myself, there is nothing better than seeing the kids get involved. They light up. They don't, like you said, they don't care if it's pinfish or blue crab. They just know they won, and they're going to remember that for the rest of their life.
Oh, that's the best thing about the tournament. So when we first started planning it, we wanted the people who do like serious competitive offshore to be able to have something for them too, but we really wanted it to be like a family fun fishing rodeo. So it kind of encompasses all the people that come to Flora-Bama all the time. So you have all walks of life here. So you could go to Walmart and get, a few things to fish with, and you can still win just as many big prizes as somebody who's going offshore in a nice boat and coming back. So it really is a little bit of something for everybody. And like you were talking about the kids, it's by far the funnest part is watching their eyes light up when they're weighing in those fish.
Fun for all ages.
Yeah, for our folks that have never been there, take us through. Tell us a little bit about the Old River Grill and the venue, because I think that's another really awesome part about this tournament is the venue itself. I mean, it's just a nice spot to hang out, even if you don't want to fish. So tell us about the Old River Grill.
Yeah, and so if anybody has not been there, especially post-Hurricane Sally, we've done some upgrades to the beach area. So across the street from the main Flora-Bama on Old River, we have Flora-Bama Old River Grill and the Flora-Bama Yacht Club. And there's this beautiful beach area over there. There'll be live music going on, and the actual weigh-in is downstairs at Old River Grill. So if you don't have any fish to weigh, say you don't want to compete, or maybe you're waiting for a family member to come in, you can sit out there on the beach and listen to music and watch everybody come in. So it's a really, really good environment. You can get some drinks or some food and just sit in the sun. So it's awesome.
You know, you mentioned the kids division. You know, if a kid wants to fish in both divisions, like if they want to enter the adult division, can they?
Absolutely. So they just have to purchase a adult ticket. So if they didn't want to fish in the kids, they didn't have to. Or if they wanted to do both, they could fish in kids and adults and then have more chances at winning.
Man, that's so cool. You know, you mentioned June 11th and 12th. It's going to be the tournament. Awards on the 13th. I guess captain's meeting is going to be the 10th. Is that right?
Yes. And so we're going to do a captain's, basically a party. If anybody wants to come to Old River and hang out on that Thursday, you absolutely can. But in terms of a captain's meeting, you don't have to physically be there. We're going to do all the questions and stuff with our tournament director on Flora-Bama Fishing Rodeo's Facebook page. And we'll do it live, so it'll be interactive and you can ask questions. So you don't have to come sign out. But if you just want to come hang out and, kick off the tournament and have a good time at Old River, you're more than welcome to.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great time. If folks want to get tickets, what's the best way for them to purchase tickets, Jennifer?
You can go to fishflorabama.com and click on Fishing Rodeo, and all the details will be right there, and it'll walk you through, and you can easily purchase online.
Awesome. Thanks for the details, and appreciate you being on the show, and we'll talk to you soon. We'll see you at the weigh-in.
Sounds good.
All right. That ought to work.
All right, folks. Let's head on down to Orange Beach, Alabama. Let's see what Chris Vecsey has been up to over at Sam's Bait and Tackle. What you say, Chris? How we doing this week, buddy?
We're doing all right. I've been kind of a pro with a busted wing this past week, but other than that, I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I heard you took a little spill. That's no good, man. That's what you get for drinking and fishing, right?
Yeah, something like that. No, it's actually quite something. Last week I filmed a show with Barry Stokes with Let's Fish TV, and we were out at some of the nearshore rigs just doing some, for most part doing light tackle fishing, both artificial and natural baits, but. We threw out some bigger baits on heavier spinning tackle, and we're hooking up some pretty good sized snapper and some other, UFOs, underwater flying objects.
Right.
I'd hooked a big fish, hook pulled, I stumbled backwards, rod holder caught my leg. I flipped back down on the deck and hurt my shoulder. So
happens quick, doesn't it? I mean, really, that's a pretty good learning point there, man. It can happen quick. Make sure your deck's always as clean as possible, and as many hours as you have on the water, it happens just like that. You know it?
Oh, it takes nothing. And the thing is, on this particular situation, there's really not much I could have done as far as I tried to catch myself. When I fell, broke my fall a little bit, but my shoulder kind of took the strain of it.
Sure. Yep. No doubt, man. That's why it's important to keep the deck clear at all times. Could have been a gaff laying there or something. Gosh, I don't even want to think about that, but you never know. It's got to be safety first. You got to have your head on the swivel for sure. Well, I hate to hear that, buddy, but let's talk a little bit of surf fishing that's been going over there on the east side. I know that I've been seeing some gator trout, and we've been talking about it the past couple of weeks that it was going to pop off any second as far as walking the beach with those plugs for those big old trout.
Yeah, it's been very, very good for probably last week and a half, almost 2 weeks. The trout have been on the beach. It's been intermittent, mostly because of the weather. It's not so much the fish haven't been there as much as it's been almost unfishable for some extended periods of time. But this last week, we've seen a lot of really pretty weather. It's been warm. The wind's been a little bit lighter. There's a lot of really pretty troughs and washouts on the beach, especially from Gulf Shores and moving west. Right now, it's pretty much prime time if you want to get on the beach and catch some big speckled trout. It's perfect for it right now.
Yeah, sounds like you need to. I'm sure it's the same kind of deal. Get there super early and just walk and plug away. Yeah.
We've had, especially back this past weekend, we had a lot of late morning bite. Starting from like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and actually continuing sometimes almost to 11 o'clock. So I mean, you never know.
Tide related, maybe.
Possibly. I think it had a lot to do with the moon.
Moon. Yeah, I forgot about the
I
big
think it had
moon.
a lot to do with the moon phase. And the thing is, when you have a big moon like that, is the fish a lot of time will feed through the night. And just like anything, they're going to have their peak feeds. And, if those fish are full, a lot of time you end up where your early morning is not your peak feed. You have to wait until the next feeding cycle, which a lot of time will be late morning.
Yeah, that makes any sense. I know a lot of the big trout guys, they, live and die by the solo lunar. Do you put any weight on that?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. I mean, it's definitely not a 5-minute conversation.
Right.
But moon phase, moon phase means everything as well as the tides. I mean, you've got to find a compromise between the two. But usually when you have a full moon, you have a very good feed through the night. And a lot of time you're going to have a better bite either late morning or even midday. Some of my biggest trout have actually come around the 3-4 day span of the full moon, middle of the day.
I've definitely not. That's not the first time I've heard that, and I do think there is a lot to it with multiple species and hunting and all kind of stuff. There's a lot of. It's pretty crazy how much the moon and the tides affect. Obviously, the tides don't affect the deer. Well, I guess it depends on where you're at. If you're up in the river delta, it may. Well, let's talk a little more about surf fishing, man. Any pompanos still rolling through there? Any big reds in the surf? Just kind of walk us through what you've been seeing this week.
So pretty much, I mean, the pompano fishing's been good. Here's the issue right now. If you're wanting to catch pompano and whiting and basically set fishing in general with baited rigs, is the grass. The grass has gotten pretty bad over the last several days. You gotta keep your rigs clean. It's worth it. I mean, there's still a lot of pompano being caught actually, and then some very big whiting. But you gotta expect to be checking your rigs often, otherwise they're gonna stay pretty dirty. But that's the nice thing about this time of year is as we get further into summer and things start to warm up, it's really almost pays at this point, in my opinion, to put the set rigs away, pick up a lighter spinning rod and start throwing artificials because, between trout, redfish, flounder, pompano, again, you can take plenty of them on artificials. A lot of that stuff is going to, feeding in those same washouts and troughs. The difference is you can keep moving. You can find cleaner troughs and work them a little bit more effective with the artificials. They're not sitting on the bottom collecting all that grass and muck.
Yeah, and you're covering more ground too. I mean, I would assume the ladyfish and the bluefish and the Spanish mackerel would hit on those as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's probably one of the most action-packed types of fishing you can do on the beach because if you go out there with just a handful of baits, and it's not so much. Everybody always asks me what my favorite brand of this or brand. It really goes more by just type and profile, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Like I always want to have this time of year. I always want to have some kind of walk the dog style topwater between 4 and 5 inches long. I like a little bit bigger topwaters because you don't get quite as many ladyfish on them. They also throw them a little bit easier. It's not that I mind catching a ladyfish, but after your 100th for the morning, and then of course having to deal with that fish and treble hooks is not so much fun. But I like to have top waters. I like to have some jerk baits in about the same size range, switch baits in that 2.5 to 3 inch range, and then some just plain white paddle tail grubs. You can literally put eight lures in your tackle bag to walk the beach with and be fully equipped. It's really more of a matter of those profiles than anything.
Heck yeah. Keep you a little sexy fanny pack on there with some fluorocarbon and a couple different lures, and that's much easier than a giant beach cart and all that stuff you got to bring whenever you do the other, and you got to combat the grass as well.
Oh, no doubt about it. Yeah, fanny packs, I get made fun of a lot for my fanny pack.
Very versatile, very useful.
It's versatile, and it's a matter of function versus fashion here, brother. I mean, it's, I don't want some cumbersome bag. I don't want a cart and all that. You get your little fanny pack, put one little stowaway container in it that you can put, up to a dozen lures or whatever, and have a pocket for your leader material, and you're good to go. That's really the more effective, more efficient way to fish the beach, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man. Very efficient. That's a great report. That's a great tip to stay out of that grass. Folks want to come see you and grab a nice surf fishing spin. Well, I guess the red snapper season. Let's talk about that a little bit. I kind of forgot. We didn't even talk about it last week. We were so encompassed in everything else. You been seeing any giant snapper come in over there or anything?
Oh, yeah, lots. I've had customers every day, wanting to show me pictures of the snapper they've caught. And, man, some really nice fish, actually. I actually saw some fish that were legitimately over 30 pounds last week.
Dang.
You hear it all the time. Everybody's, every fish we caught was over 20, 25 pounds. We caught a couple over 30. And we know how that goes. You put them on the scale, you're usually disappointed. But last week I actually saw some, a few legitimate 30+ pound snapper. I mean, it seems like every year the size average is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But also, what I've been trying to kind of teach some people is how to, add to that box red snapper, add in some big mangroves, lane snapper, vermilion, really get your time worth out there and make put a nice variety in the box, not just the red snapper.
Absolutely, man. And while we're on the subject, I've been seeing a ton of posts that we don't get too much in the weeds here as far as being controversial and things like that, but man, it hurts my heart to see 10-pound snapper go in the water for 2 20-pounders. Doesn't it you? It burns me up.
Yeah, I mean, you mean as far as culling goes?
Absolutely. Culling is the word.
No,
man.
we don't. No, culling to me is a bad practice. The main thing is, like, your bigger snapper are more likely to survive that ascent to the top as it is. In my opinion, they don't taste as good. That's a very old fish. It's part of your brood stock. When me and my wife go snapper fishing, I want to have to measure my fish. I want 16 to 20 inch snapper. I actually do not want them any bigger than that. And when me and Barry, when we were out there last week filming our show, that was one of the things I kind of touched on was, not only just from the looking down the road philosophy of it, but the better eating fish are the smaller ones. The big ones take good pictures. To me, it's better to let the big ones go and keep the smaller fish. That's part of that smaller percentage of fish that makes it that size as it is.
Yep, that's a fact, man. And the smaller ones definitely taste way better. All right, Chris, since this kind of morphed on us from a onshore trout report kind of into an offshore report, but I like it, man. A red snapper report. I've been saving this question for somebody that has a little more jigging experience on the bottom than I do. This week's Hey Cap comes from Ben Clavitt. He said, "Hey Cap, I love offshore jigging. I find it more fun than trolling and more challenging than live bait off the bottom. With snapper season in, can you come up with any tricks on targeting monster snapper with vertical jigs?"
Actually, I do a lot of jigging for snapper. That's actually kind of in line with the show we filmed last week, believe it or not.
Nice.
Targeting those types of fish with artificials and avoiding the mess and hassle of using both live and frozen bait. Yeah, there absolutely is. And the main thing with vertical jigs for snappers, I find I do a lot better. If I'm going to use metal jigs, like let's say butterfly style jig, use more of the slow pitch style ones or the shorter, flatter ones that have a lot more flutter on the fall versus speed jigs, ones that you got to work warp speed to get any kind of action out. Those do great for amberjack, for tuna, for things like that. And it's not that they don't catch snapper, but I do a lot better big snapper with the shorter, flatter style jigs. But if I'm really going to go after red snapper, that's my target. Snapper, scamp, grouper, lanes, all your other types of bottom fish with the jigs. I'm either going to go with the short metal ones or I'm going to go with a bucktail style jig, something I can add either a plastic eel or a big grub tail to the back of it. And what that does is that it slows the fall, gives it a lot more action on the fall. Most of those bottom fish are going to be cued into that, especially. They're not going to go far from their home. Something that looks real appealing, that has a lot of action at slower speed, has always done better for me on bottom fish than high speed types of jigs. So if I'm going to go offshore jigging, I'm going to stock up on some jigs. I'm going to have at least a few bucktails. I'm going to have some big plastic grub trailers. I would say glow, chartreuse, probably my two favorite colors as far as the trailers go. And then I'm going to have some of those slow pitch style metal jigs. Those types of jigs right there, like I say, a lot of action with little action from you. They have a lot of movement at that slow speed near the bottom. Those are always going to do better on those bigger bottom fish.
That makes sense, man. And I know we were talking about culling. Ben asked about those bigger snapper. I mean, they tend to hang up a little bit higher in the water column.
A lot of the time, yeah. A lot of the time.
Yeah. So I assume you're just marking that mass of fish on your meter and dropping it through them and kind of jigging it up through them, or would you rather fall through them or just kind of mix it up?
Honestly, a lot of time with big snapper, if you have the right jig, like you said, a lot of time they're suspended off the bottom. What's going to happen is as you're dropping that jig, you're going to notice you get a third or 2/3 of the way of the water column. The jig's going to be slowly sinking. All of a sudden that line is going to start whipping off your reel real quick. And that's that snapper grabbing that jig on the fall. We got some really really good footage of that last week. I was fishing a jig by a company called C&B, which is a local jig company. It's looks like a little white squid. So basically picture a bucktail jig, but with a silicone like tentacled style skirt, not, the traditional bucktail. So what I was doing is I was throwing it on the down current side of these gas platforms we were fishing. And the jig sinks pretty slow because of that skirt. But I'd sit there and I'd just bounce the rod, let off a little line. And as it's going through the water column, get about halfway down, all of a sudden that line starts speeding up off the reel. And all you got to do is just engage the reel and boom, you're on. And that's going to happen a lot of time with red snapper. Now, if your jig does make it to the bottom, obviously snapper will still eat it. I look at it as the bonus there is once you're on the bottom, that's where, lane snapper, vermilion snapper,
grouper,
scamp, all that stuff is most likely going to grab it, especially scamp. That's actually my favorite way to fish scamp is with a jig on the bottom.
Yep, me too, actually. I really like a diamond jig for a scamp too. Those ones that are the quads, it's got the 4 sides. Yep. Man, that was fun. That transformed into a cool segment. I appreciate you being a part of that.
No problem.
Yeah, man. Ben's going to get a prize pack from the Slick Lure. Ben, make sure you email us at alabama@bestfishingreport.com to redeem your Slick Lures. Chris, like I said, I appreciate the report, man. It's a great Hey Cap answer. If folks want to come down there and see you at Sam's Bait and Tackle, where can they get in touch with you?
You can always come to the shop, of course. It's 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach, about a mile on the left past Doc Seafood, past 161. You can also give us a call at the shop, 251-981-4245. We are open 7 days a week from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. So you really can't miss us. We're here pretty much all the time.
That's right. All right, you guys go see Chris and go see Dusty and get you a nice snapper slapper set up and some jigs to go with it. We appreciate it, Chris. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right, thank you for having me.
All right, guys, let's take a quick break and hear from a few of this week's sponsors. This week's Fishing Report was brought to you by KillerDock. As anglers, we put a lot of time, money, and passion into fishing, but most of us do not have a fish cleaning station that we are proud of. Many of us are suffering from dock dysfunction. A rod and table with rusty metal, this is just no good. But the dock enhancement that we've all been waiting for is finally here. KillerDock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit KillerDock.com to see more. And also brought to you by Foster Contracting. The recent thunderstorms that have been producing wind and hail in the area may have damaged your home's roof. The certified roofing pros at Foster Contracting offer free roof inspections, and if your roof has received damage, most homeowners will have little or no cost out of pocket when going through your insurance. If you're looking for quality construction with a dependable, licensed, and certified fortified roofing professional, give the Fortified Roofing Pros a call at 251-973-9999. They're a family-owned business that is big enough to get the job done, but small enough to care. Remember to support the local businesses that make your local podcast possible, and check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com. All right, let's head on down to Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, Alabama area and get our next report. Let's head on down to Gulf Rebel Charter Fishing, Captain Kendall Annan. How are we doing today, Cap?
Another beautiful day down here.
Yes, man, it's been beautiful. The wind has finally checked out a little bit, and I'm sure you guys have been chomping at the bit to get out there and just kind of walk us through what you guys been up to.
Yeah, I mean, earlier this week, about Memorial Day, we had a nice 2-day trip. It started off a little bumpy, so we ended up getting a delayed start and leaving out Saturday. So we got out there and just, worked our way out to the fishing ground, worked on some scamp, ended up getting a wahoo. There's been a lot of grass out there, so, I mean, a lot of flying fish, a lot of baits. We had a couple hit and runs. But like I said, we got out there and started on the grouper and bumped the bottom for a little bit. And about that time, we worked our way out to the ghetto area and got a little handful of blacks in. We were marking a few. We worked till, about 2 or 3 in the morning, but didn't get no big bites on the yellowfin. Sharks were tearing us up.
That's what I heard too. My brother on the escape was out there. I guess it was either Thursday, Friday, or Friday, Saturday, and they said they got sharked up real bad too. They had a couple of decent yellowfins, but was that close stuff, the ghetto and all, was that all in blue water?
Yeah, the blue water's been in for sure. I mean, you leave out 20, 30 miles, it really clears up. And like I said, a lot of bait, a lot of grass. So I know here recently, these past couple days, there's been some wahoo caught inside 10, 15 miles. So it's just good to see that kind of activity going on.
That sounds good, man. I would assume since all that blue water and all that bait is moving in and kind of becoming, east to west, all those flying fish and all. That's why those Wahoo are coming on in. And the lady in caught a really, really nice one. It was either today or yesterday, about the same. It was about in that 10 or 12 mile range. So that's really good to hear. You guys just fast trolling for those?
Yeah, fast trolling, pulling them bazooka lures that we got, and I usually try to tie them up. But yeah, any kind of big lure right there. I mean, we've been using about 135-pound test though for them, not too heavy, you know, to shy them away. But about 135 has been about the right number for the cable there.
Nice. So you have been using cable or just thick mono?
I've been pulling cable, and they've been biting pretty good on it.
Yeah. Do you like that single strand, or do you like the multiple strand or the rubber coated? I know there's about 500 different strands now. What do you like to use?
Yeah, I use the multi-strand. Like I said, I just keep it light, 90 to 135 pounds, and I feel like it does pretty good.
Yeah, I think with it not so heavy too, it makes them a lot harder for them to shake the hook right at the boat. I think at those high speeds, it can really waller out a hole, you know. And if you got a big old giant piece of wire, I think you can pry it out pretty easy.
Oh yeah. I get one shot at it when it's at the boat usually, so we just try to make that one count.
Yeah. All right, so you guys got out there, had some blue water, sharks ate you up. Wasn't a whole lot going on with tuna. I heard the same thing, except way off, way out there.
Yeah, way down the road.
So then what, you guys kind of came in and did some deep dropping, or what did you guys get into?
We didn't deep drop a whole lot, but we did fish in some deep water, about 300 foot to 250. And that's just been where that's been the best bite on the scamps this past weekend and all that. But they were there, we had to work for them. We were using pinfish, live bait, some LYs, pogies, anything, cigar minnows, and they hit pretty good on that. It was slow, but I mean, you just got to kind of catch one or two and move on,
Yeah, slow but worth it. Just slow and steady.
Right. Yeah, it helps with the electric rods. I'll tell you, 300 foot, that's a lot of cranking.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. And it's funny that how much that game has changed and how much that's become popular. And I'd say probably 10 years with those big electric reels. And I mean, deep dropping used to be 300 foot used to be deep dropping, but now that ain't nothing.
Right. People don't even consider that deep dropping no more. But it is for me for right now.
Heck yeah, me too, especially when you're manual winding.
Oh man, yeah, check that bait one time.
No doubt, buddy. Well, you mentioned live bait. What's your favorite go-to rig? I'm not sure if I've ever asked you that on here or not. I know I've asked Shane Toole and a couple of those other guys, but whenever you're targeting, just say grouper and or scamp primarily, what's your go-to setup?
I mean, some people use like a kind of like a knocker rig, but to me, it just depends on what bottom you're fishing on.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
If you're fishing a pretty rocky edge, you can get hung up a lot more. So that to me, depending on how, it's a preference, but I like depending on the bottom. If I'm flat bottom fishing or whatever, you can get away with like just your normal setup. Either way, I'm using a pretty good long leader. I like a nice long leader to keep them from being shy about it, some light test. And if I'm in the deeper water, not so much matter on the test to me. You can go a little heavier if you're going to go deep water. I still like a nice size leader.
Let's go into that a little bit further. What are you calling a nice long leader, and what size are you calling small or larger or smaller leader?
I mean, I'd typically go about 5 foot at least, maybe more. Yeah. And then pound test, 60-pound test to 80-pound test. Some people would use the carbon, leaders, and so you can do that as well. I know I'm just not that. I'm poor, so
right.
that high dollar leader could get ate up. So, but I feel like everything works pretty good. If you got it, you can use it. If not, 60-pound test.
Yeah, I feel like that fluorocarbon leader definitely makes a difference. Up towards the surface for sure. But I don't know how much difference it makes down there, and it's a little bit different material too. Some people talk about whether it chafes easier or it's more brittle.
Right.
I don't know about all the science behind all that, but they can definitely see that mono better than they can the fluorocarbon whenever it's up higher in the water column for sure.
Right, and that's the thing. It depends on what you're fishing and the depth. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Well, we had a little small window on amberjack. Did you guys get into those donkeys?
Yeah, we've caught a few, especially in close, in the right spot. I know a lot of people were shooting out there. They bit pretty good right there before the season, for sure.
Yeah.
A lot of juveniles, but every once in a while you can get on a nice one.
I didn't see, usually whenever a season opens like that, I guess, man, it's been a long time since red snapper, amberjack, and gray triggerfish were open. I know it was a small window, but it's been a while since we've seen that.
Right. Yeah, most likely it will be in the fall time. But yeah, they got a little window this for the rec guys prior to our snapper season for federal. But yeah, it was it's nice to see that. I love a nice mixed bag. If we can ever get back to that route.
Yeah, me too, man. Well, I know we've talked about drift lines here before, throwing out a knocker rig. Do you guys see any difference as far as, the difference in the size of snapper on what rigs you were using or anything like that?
Not necessarily. I mean, right here, for us, it's been pretty tough. This hurricane kind of shook up the water a little bit, moved a lot of reefs, and so a lot of spots are kind of, they're not there no more.
That's a good point to talk about. I actually hadn't even thought about that. I actually saw somebody that posted something and pretty much all their stuff and under 100 foot was moved. Did you guys run into some of that too, I guess?
Yeah. A lot of things disappeared. Like I said, it might move a couple 1,000 feet to 100 feet. So
could be covered up.
Yeah, some of them do now, but hurricanes can also uncover spots.
Right. True.
So if you have something that maybe went missing, years back, you might want to go kind of check it if you haven't, put the eraser to it. Yeah, you just got to go check them. We had a few move around, but like I said, you just got to do your homework in the off season is what I've always said. Yeah, there's definitely been some spots moved. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe that. I really hadn't even thought about that a whole lot, I guess, because I hadn't been bottom bumping in a little bit. I've been chasing my inshore species, but
yeah.
Man, that's a great report. Only thing I have to add to that is keep your fast trollers out in between spots.
Yes, absolutely.
Pick up a big old hooter, man, because those things are delicious. They're fun to fight, and it sounds like they've been coming up in some quantity too.
Yeah, and I want to add something here on that. Now that I've heard the dolphin are starting to make their way they're getting a few of them. The herd is making their way.
Nice.
And if you have water like this, I try to put out a spread, but sometimes, especially depending on where you're at and close, I like pulling Wahoo lures, the big stuff, but you can also shy away those dolphins. You can pass up on a lot of dolphin around here pulling big lures. So I try to pull out a spread. I pull out little dusters on the outside and Wahoo lures out the back. And that way I don't have any regrets. Like, man, am I pulling the right stuff? I usually try to pull them all. That way I could snag a chicken dolphin or something,
Yeah, that's a great point. What's your ideal speed there for trolling for Mahi and Wahoo? Try to get that mix.
For me, it's going to be for me on my slow pig, it's about 9 knots, but 9 to 12 knots is usually the money.
Yeah, that's perfect. Well, that's great, man. That's a great report. We got to get that offshore tip from you. What you think for an offshore tip this week?
Man, for the guys that are going out there that probably don't have a captain or, trying to go out there and impress the friends or their boss, if you're captaining your own boat, just staying up on top of a spot if you're amberjack fishing or, big snapper or something like that, but mainly the amberjack, when you get one hooked up, always have a rig ready. I don't know how many people, typically we're fishing 2 to 3 at a time, but normally if I hook up on a big jack, I try to have another bait ready to go. So once that fish is up off wherever you're fishing, sometimes they try to get back in the reg, but once you get them up about mid-water, you drop another live bait down. If you're steering the boat, you want to kind of keep it on the wreck, on the fish, because a lot of times those big reef donkeys, they'll follow each other. And that's why we're throwing another bait down. I know a lot of people get one on and they reel everything up because they don't want to tangle it.
That's a mistake.
Yeah, if you kind of keep a bait in the water, you can keep them fired up, and then you turn it into like a feeding frenzy. But you also want to stay up on the spot. That way, if it does break off or you do lose it, and say you're off the spot, them fish are following, and the next thing you know, you come back to the wreck, they're not there. Now your bite's off. The heat of the moment's gone. So just trying to stay on the wreck, stay on the fish. Now it's okay to kind of pull off the side if you're fishing a big wreck, because you don't want to. If you want to pull them off the wreck, so be it. But try to keep the bait in the water and hook them up when you're doing that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. I know AJ's closed for now for the private anglers, but man, that's a great point.
Yes, jot it down. The guys listen, jot it down in the notebook.
That's right. Keep that in the bank.
That's it.
Yeah, man, you're right. Even rig fishing. We would always keep one down and you could pretty much pretty much bank by it. You'd be like, all right, you got one on, keep it down. You hook a bait up. And if that guy didn't listen to you or just thought it was like, oh, that stupid deckhand, I know what he's talking about, and that fish came in the boat, 7 times out of 10, you wouldn't catch another one. You'd have to move to a spot.
Yep, you're done.
That's a great tip.
They're following him up, and like I said, if you're getting off the spot so he doesn't break off, you better keep a bait in there, because if you go back to the wreck, I mean, they're most likely looking around hunting. They're off.
Yep, they're all discombobulated, man. That's a great tip, Captain Kendall. Man, I noticed snapper season, you guys are getting booked up, but if folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you guys?
They could call 251-747 all sevens, or check us out, gulfrebelcharters.com.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate the report. You guys be safe out there, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you having us.
Well, that's another awesome report, and it was brought to you by CCA Alabama, a great way to support conservation projects like the Claude Petit Flounder and Speckled Trout Hatchery and the University of South Alabama Cobia Tagging Project is through the purchase of a distinctive CCA Alabama saltwater fishing license plate. And also brought to you by Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. All right, folks, and last but not least, it's not often that we end with the inshore report, but let's head on down to Mobile Bay, Dauphin Island, Mississippi Sound. Let's see what Captain Richard Rutland with Cold-Blooded Fishing's been up to. What you say, Captain Blood?
Oh, shoot, Butch, Daddy, I can't. If I was any better, I'd be you, man.
Oh, man, I don't know. It's been a pretty nice couple of weeks to be on the water, man. We hadn't had much rain. The wind's finally laid down a little bit. I bet you've been scooting around, hadn't you?
Yep, we've been kind of getting after a little bit of everything here recently. Like you said, the main thing that's been real nice has been the weather has finally straightened out. We just came off of a real good period last week. Of course, I wasn't on the show last week. I don't know what you guys talked about. Man, last week was unbelievable. Right there, pre-full moon. And fish got a little lazy right after that full moon, but they're starting to fire back up now. The size and the quality of the fish this year on the speckled trout side has been really, really good. I have zero complaints whatsoever. You always kind of go through this thought process with trout every year, because we'll kind of get settled into the winter time when we're catching all these fish in the rivers, and you'll catch a bunch of numbers and you kind of wonder, man, where's the size at sometimes? And then just like clockwork every year, right around that May and June full moon, all the good sized fish start eating and getting fired up during their spawning period. And man, it's been one for the record books for me here recently. I've had just some absolutely jam up trips, doing a bunch of wade fishing, a lot of it on artificial, starting to throw some croakers, doing that. But I have no complaints whatsoever. It's kind of one of those times where I always tell folks, man, hey, do you have a favorite springtime or early summertime spot? That's where you need to go right now is wherever your favorite place is. 'Cause I'm catching all the fish in my favorite places right now.
That's awesome, man. And as far as last week on the show, we talked about, I know me, you, and Bobby got to get out and do some wade fishing with Uncle Joey on the slick lure. We talked about that a little bit and just how great of a trip that was. I called about that. Bobby said it was something about that one that I caught was around 9 pounds or so. I don't know if he was quite that big, but
no, that was a good one for sure. Speaking of the slick lure, man, my hot colors this week have been the Bayou Blues. Is just that's been a color to me that's really surprised me. When it comes to colors in the slick lure, I'm not always like dead set on a certain color. I like throwing just maybe whatever I'm feeling in the morning, but I'm not ever opposed to switching a color and making a dozen casts with it and see what happens, man. But that Bayou Blues has been really, really good. It doesn't look like anything natural, It's kind of that red purplish color, I don't know if it's red or if it's purple, but it kind of looks like it's a mix in between. But man, that color's been really good. The cool beans has been really good. And then one of our go-tos for forever, really since the slick lure was invented, was the B-Cat, that pearl white with the chartreuse tail. Has been really good when you've got a little bit of stain, not really stain, we'll just call it like stirred up water. Man, I tell you, old Uncle Joey, he showed us a few things when we went fishing. When he came down and went fishing with us, he was catching the man. Like you remember the trip we fished?
Oh yeah,
we were fishing in watercolor that was literally you couldn't see. Probably, I mean, I feel like I'm stretching it when I say 6 inches. I don't think you could see 6 inches. And Uncle Joey was catching them on the cool beans.
Yeah.
You know, which does not seem to me like a dirty watercolor. You know, it just goes to show you, I really think it's all about profile and the action of the lure is what does the damage on the fish using that slick lure. I don't think color matters a whole lot. You need to always try to kind of maybe match the conditions a little bit. With the lure, you got a big bright sky and clear water. I'm going to try to throw something clear, like the cool beans or the Bayou Blues or dirty ice or something like that. And then, you know, darker conditions, I usually go darker, go goblin, mad mullet, B-Cat. B-Cat doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for that train of thought, but it does work great, kind of off color or stirred up water. And we did real good too. Been doing real good on the pink and the chartreuse tail. Have been good in that little bit of off color water as well. So, but man, it's been fun. I've been doing a lot of wade fishing lately, and which is my favorite thing in the world to do. Last week after we fished with Uncle Joey, I had probably 3 days in a row, 3 of the best trips I've had all year. As far as like the number and size go, we never bought any live bait or anything, all artificial. It was just, it's been a great.
Yeah. Early summer.
Post-spring. Yeah. I'd say post-spring, early summer, however you want to define where we're at right now. But
yeah,
I haven't done any deep water fishing, but it kind of sounds like fish are everywhere right now. They're on deep water structure. They're on the flats. They're over grass. They're over oyster shells. A little bit of everything's going on right now.
For sure, man. I'll tell you one thing that I definitely learned and or picked up on was, I guess at that wade. I mean, we had been a couple of times throwing artificials earlier in the spring, but I would say that last time you and I and all them went, I felt like I wasn't really getting the love that I deserved in the very beginning. I started really picking up my twitches and working my lure a lot faster. I guess maybe I was kind of stuck in that winter and early spring tactic. And man, I tell you what, it made a huge difference. As soon as I started twitching it way harder and just giving it a lot more action, I started getting the love that I thought I deserved on that slick lure. And I definitely picked that up on that trip with y'all. Just change a little bit. Things are changing, you know?
Yeah, I think that's the beauty in that lure a lot is it's a big profile lure. And, man, kind of like what we were talking about with Joey and Bobby that day was we probably don't give the fish enough credit sometimes to how good they are at finding forage, you know. And I think what is so successful about that is it's a big profile lure, and you start twitching that joker around, they can feel the lure twitching around in the water column, wherever they are, you know, and like,
especially in, 2 to 4 foot.
That's right. They can feel that thing bouncing around and can hone in on it and find it somehow. I don't know how they do, but
they do.
Twitching a little bit harder in that off-color water definitely goes a long way.
Yep, and that's what stemmed that conversation about, they're obviously feeling it because they're finding the lure, and that's what. Maybe if I start twitching it a little bit harder and putting out some more vibrations like Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, you know what I mean? Maybe they'll pick it up. So it worked. It worked. So what else you been up to? A couple triple tail showing up. Been seeing a couple of those fellers.
Yeah. There's definitely some blackfish starting to show up. I must be the odd man out. I hadn't caught one yet this year, but of course I hadn't really looked too hard either. I've been I've been in wade fishing mode. That's all I can think about. I can't get it off my brain. I want to be in the water. I want to be somewhere in some shallow water right now. It just is what feels right to me. And especially being around some shells or some grass right now is where I'm wanting to be right now. But did do a little offshore fishing last week. The sword fishing was unbelievable leading up to the full moon. Then we had the full moon, and I was kind of comparing notes with Shane Toole and a couple of other people offshore last week, and we were kind of talking about on the backside of these full moons, sometimes those swords get lazy, but man, the grouper fishing's been on fire. You get out around some natural bottom and 200 plus foot of water with a live bait right now, you're gonna have a real good shot at catching some grouper, some scamp. Sounds like it's just been unbelievably good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the escape.
So, yeah.
I guess that was Friday, Saturday. I don't know if you saw any of those pictures.
Oh yeah, I saw. I saw that, man. Yeah, they crushed them. Yeah,
absolute
they crushed
dinosaurs.
them, man. That was a really, really good trip they had. But
yeah, for sure. Well, definitely glad the weather's buffing out, man. It's time. We deserved it. We earned this one.
Yeah. It just kind of looking long range on the Windfinder Pro app right now, man. It looks like we got a nice stretch of it coming. Nice little period of good weather coming.
Yeah,
especially
sure.
Going into this weekend. For everybody who's going this weekend, it looks like it's going to be jam up.
Yeah, you going snapper fishing this weekend? There's a couple tournaments around in there.
Yeah, there is. Gabe Tidmore puts on the Ben Dunham Classic. I can't remember exactly what his name of his tournament is that's going on. That's a great one to get into. Gabe started putting this thing on for his buddy Ben Dunham, passed away. He's trying to do something to help his family out, and it's become quite the staple as far as the early snapper season tournament. Me and Triple C, Corey Quint, won it last year. We're talking about trying to figure out if we're going to defend it or not. We don't know. We don't know. My schedule's so crazy right now, but I did do a little snapper fishing over the weekend with my wife and my son and a couple of his buddies, and we definitely caught some hammers. They're definitely chewing. So it's kind of very typical early snapper season bite going on right now, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm trying to get all my ducks in a row and see what we're going to do for the weekend, but that'd definitely be a good one to go out. You can everybody can sign up on Fishing Chaos. You don't have to show up anywhere or a captain's meeting or to buy a ticket. You can just do it all right online there, and it's a great cause. Gabe always picks something, has been picking out good things to support with the proceeds of his tournament. So a lot of good camaraderie there, a lot of good competition there as well.
Yeah, it'll definitely be some good boats fishing it, some good prizes. I saw some guaranteed payouts. So you guys check that out on Fishing Chaos as well. Yeah,
no, I saw that KillerDock on there, man. I was like, woo, man, that's a good prize right there.
Heck yeah, just that's worth entering for sure. Well, we got to get that inshore tip from you, man. What you think for an inshore tip this week?
Man, so kind of on the inshore side of things, the big topic I've been talking about the entire time during this report is wade fishing. A couple things I want to remind everybody and just to think about while you're wade fishing, and something I see on a daily basis out on the water is the whole point of wade fishing to me is to get away from the boat and to be quiet and to be silent. The boat makes you don't really think about it making a lot of noise or alerting the fish that you're there. But when you're in shallow water, and I'm talking about like 3 foot, 4 foot or less of water, you can't wade in 4 foot, but when you're in like that 2 to 3 foot of water column and trying to target speckled trout, especially when you're over a hard bottom, like a lot of these oyster shells and sandy grass bottoms that I'm talking about, you want to be as quiet as possible. And the boat makes a lot of noise. You have hull slap, from whatever little bit of wind action that you have is kind of slapping the side of the hull, and you'll hear that. And then also displacement. I think more about displacement than I think about hull slap. you got to figure you have a 20 to a 24, 25 foot boat drifting across a flat, and you kind of look behind you when you're making a drift and you see all the eddies and everything and the upwellings that the boat's creating. And I just really feel like the fish can feel you. You know, as the boat's moving through the water, it's pushing water out, and then it's sucking in behind you as you're moving through, even if you're drifting and not on your trolling motor or making any kind of noise that way.
Mm-hmm.
That displacement, I feel like the fish can feel that. They know that something way bigger than they are is in the area. And then when you jump in the water, those fish don't even know you're there, I feel like. So that being said, when you want to wade fish, you want to park your boat. I mean, I usually have about 100-yard rule. If I've got an area I want to fish, I'm gonna anchor my boat up at least 100 yards from where I want to be, and I'll either jump up on the beach and walk down to where I think the fish are, or I'll at least walk 50, 60 yards before I drop in and start fishing. You know, or if I get out of the boat and there's no beach or anything like that, I'll walk for a long ways before I even start casting or have any confidence that I'm going to catch a fish. So, and that's what I was going to get at, is I see a lot of times out on the water, people will think wade fishing, and you'll see a guy anchored up fishing right next to his boat in the water. Yeah, it's cool to catch fish while you're wading in the water, but the whole point of it to me is to get away from the boat, because the boat makes so much noise.
For sure.
And the other thing too is while you're moving through the water, you don't want to be pushing too much water. You don't want to be walking where you're like if you're in knee or thigh deep water, you don't want to be trudging through there and making a bunch of noise. Fish are so in tune to their surroundings and what's going on and what feels natural and what doesn't. And you want to give yourself the best opportunity to catch a fish. You don't even want the fish to know you're there.
No doubt. You talk about being stealthy. Hey, if that sucker can feel a 4.5 or a 5-inch slick lure coming through the water, think about that.
I mean, yeah, I know. I didn't even really think about that till you said it, but you're exactly right. You know what I mean? If they can find that lure in 4 to 6 inch visibility of water, just because it's thumping around down there.
Your boat's got to feel like the Eiffel Tower, and you're like King Kong coming up in there.
Yeah, like the damn Titanic coming through there, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and then the other thing too that I kind of see a few mistakes other folks make, man, is when you're going to set a drift up, you're going to set a wade up, make sure you always set it up to where you can cast downwind. You know what I mean? You don't want to be walking into the wind, casting into the wind. You're not going to get that much distance out of your lure, and your body's going to be making and creating a little eddy and a little wake there, and you're going to be walking into water. Always try to set it up where you can walk downwind. You might have to walk into the wind a little bit from where you anchor the boat before you can get going downwind to where you think the fish are, but always kind of think about that, because something I've probably told this story 500 zillion times about reading this article in Florida Sportsman magazine when I was a kid. It's one of the little short editorial articles in the front of the magazine where the title was "Every Cast, Every Time," and the author was kind of just talking about how fishing, whether you think, however you want to think about it, it's all about covering water, whether it's like with your boat, and especially like when you're casting with your lure. And he said, if you think about you and your buddy going fishing, and say you throw an artificial, you throw 500 casts in a day, and just say I throw it 10 feet farther than you, Butch, because we know I can throw it 10 feet farther than you.
Maybe.
So just say you make 500 casts, I throw it 10 feet farther than you all day long. That means I covered 5,000 more feet of water than you did.
Yep, almost a mile.
Which is that's almost 1 mile of water.
Yep.
So the wind, everybody wants to fuss about the wind, but use it to your advantage. You know what I mean? It's
yep.
I kind of like it when it's I kind of like it when it's a little breezy when you're wading, because you can launch that joker a good little ways, and you're down at water level, and you're not 2 or 3 foot above the water on your casting deck on your boat. You know what I mean? Where you can really launch it then in some wind, but when you're wading, man, you need every inch you can get as far as your distance. And I can't tell you how many times my lure hits the water and I twitch it twice and got to set the hook, you know, and then everybody else around me's got to move on up to get into them, you know. So that goes a long way.
All those things tying together, man. That's all a bunch of great tips. That's a wade fishing in-depth special right there. Heck, that's good stuff, man.
Yep, that and just throw the slick lure, man. That's all you need to do, man. You'll be a daggum pro like me before you know it.
That's right, Cat. Well, we appreciate the report, man. I know you said your bookings are looking heavy, but folks want to get up with you and book an inshore trip, and not to forget the offshore trips. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Man, coldbloodedfishing.com. You can find all my contact info on there. Give me a holler. I've got Instagram, Facebook, the whole 9 yards on social media. But yeah, we're looking real good. Looking good on our offshore side of things. Still have plenty of holes to fill if anybody's wanting to get offshore and do some snapper snatching or going off and do some sword fishing. That should start to get good here this week with the moon going back out black next week. So that's coming right on around. And now, man, I want to say we're booking inshore trips in July right now is where we're at. So if you're looking to get out, I believe July is about right around when my first part of my availability is.
Heck yeah. You guys get up with Captain Richard and book you a trip, man. We appreciate the report. As always, buddy, good to have you back on, and we look forward to having you on next time. Stay safe out there, man.
Thanks, Butch Daddy, man. See you soon.
All right, Cap. Keep whacking them. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. You guys check out our great sponsors while we take a quick break. That segment was brought to you by Fishbites. Are you tired of scrambling for bait whenever you decide to go fishing? Have an artificial bait that's better than live bait, ready to go at a moment's notice with Fishbites. It's easy to pack and travel with, and it's also shelf stable, and not to mention tough. With Fishbites, the bait stays on the hook and the fish stay on the bait. Check out the full line of scented saltwater, freshwater baits, and tackle at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by B&M Pole Company. B&M Pole Company is the leading manufacturer of crappie poles in the world today. Their product line has evolved to include top quality gear for anglers who fish more than just for panfish, including their Sam Super Salt series designed for shallow water fishing for trout and redfish. These rods will deliver everything you need to catch these inshore fish at a great price. The genuine Portuguese cork handle feels great in your hand, and the exposed blank and touch system will add unbelievable sensitivity. Stainless guides are durable and flow smoothly. Check out their whole lineup at bnmpoles.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know we have to do What Did You Learn before we let you get out of here today. I took away multiple things away from this week's show. I mean, I feel like this week was, I know every week is, I feel like it's packed full of information, but Chris was saying, you got to keep on the move. You got to keep on the move right now. That's what Chris was saying, to stay away from that grass. I really, really like the idea of, because that's one of the reasons why beach fishing stresses me out so much, because there's just so much crap. You got a giant, if you have a beach cart, I don't. So I have a cooler I'm carrying. You have 3 or 4 rods. You got all your sand spikes. It can be a little bit cumbersome, especially if you feel like you have to move around a good bit. So I really, really like what Chris was saying about his super stylish, sexy fanny pack. Man, just bring you up, one, and a lot of those weight belts even have a rod holder in the back of it. That wouldn't be a bad idea either. Go into that beach fishing this time of year, catching those big gator speckled trout. Just go in as streamlined as possible. 1 rod, fanny pack, fluorocarbon, 6 or 8 of your favorite lures, and just go to town. I really, really enjoyed that from Chris. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Y'all take a minute to check out some fishing tournaments coming up near you. For Alabama saltwater anglers, you'll want to check out these awesome tournaments. The Ben Dunham's Legacy Tournament will be on June 5th of 2021 on Dauphin Island, Alabama. This tournament has some great sponsors and lots of categories with some big cash payouts. And also check out the 19th Annual Thompson Fishing Rodeo. It offers something for everyone in 2021. Want to fish with your small group? Register as an angler and weigh in from wherever you are on June 4th and 5th of 2021. Want to fish and see your friends? Fish near Dauphin Island, Alabama, and then join us for events on Friday and Saturday nights. It's your preference with virtual weigh-in and a la carte registration options. More tournaments near you Info and full tournament details, including ticket purchases, can be found online at app.fishingchaos.com/tournament. All right, folks, that's going to wrap up another Alabama saltwater fishing report. We appreciate you guys joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. You guys, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. We'll see y'all next week. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by Advanced Transmission in Spanish Fort. Give the professionals a call who have been trusted on the Gulf Coast for over 25 years at 251-626-6061, or check them out online at www.advanced-transmission.com. And also brought to you by Daycool Heating and Air. The pros at Daycool have been servicing Mobile and Baldwin counties for over a decade. Contact them at 251-633-5121 or check them out online at www.daycoolair.com. They are license number AL07028. And also brought to you by the Alabama Marine Resources Division. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers that gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper must be reported through Snapper Check prior to landing the fish in Alabama. For more information about Snapper Check, please visit outdooralabama.com.
This week's Saltwater Fishing Report is brought to you by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with EXP Realty, your boating and beach property specialist. Check me out on Facebook at Angelo Depaola Realtor, the Coastal Connection, or call me direct at 850-287-3440.
And also brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. And also brought to you by Sam's Stop and Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach, Alabama. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. They also have bait, clothing, groceries, name brand sunglasses, and so much more. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today. And also by SunSouth. For quality John Deere equipment affordably priced, visit your neighbors at SunSouth. Visit your local SunSouth and check them out on the web at www.sunsouth.com.